Second Trump impeachment trial set to begin Tuesday.
Set to begin in the Senate tomorrow, and our new poll with Ipsos shows that 56% of the public believes the Senate should convict Trump and bar him from holding federal office again.
Wild numbers. That only 56% think that Donald Trump should be barred from federal office. Only 56%. That number might seem high, but it's not. That is incredibly low, if you ask me, in comparison to what the Donald Trump has done so far.
43% are against convicting him. Congressional correspondent Rachel Scott has the latest on how the House prosecutors will make their case. Good morning, Rachel.
George, good morning. And we are learning those House impeachment managers plan to rely heavily on video to make their case. The goal here is to remind those senators, now jurors in this trial, of the chaos and violence that they witnessed on January 6th as they place the blame squarely on Donald Trump. With just over 24 hours to go, Democrats are preparing to make their case against the former president, relying on a trove of videos to force senators to relive the insurrection, arguing Donald Trump incited it all.
We will remove them from office one way or another.
The man in the horns and face paint is Jacob Chansley. In this newly released video, seen here celebrating right after the siege. His attorney says he believes he broke into the Capitol at the request of Trump. An ABC News investigation identified more than a dozen others who say they thought they were following Trump's lead. And Democrats say that's the point. But they were, and they are. And I do hope that some of these idiots finally recognize that, like, they could potentially... I think it's out of self-preservation that so many of these morons are finally saying, like, well, we thought Trump was giving us the A-OK just so they can get out of a prison sentence. But also good. There is truth to it regardless. Put yourself in front of Donald Trump's well-being for once. He certainly has never cared about you. Doing the deadly rampage would not have happened without the former president.
We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
The president was taking steps to make it worse, not better.
Trump's lawyers say he did not incite the riot, insisting he was exercising his First Amendment rights. Now, in the final hours before his second impeachment trial, the vast majority of Republicans holding the line of defense, claiming the trial is unconstitutional. Republican Congresswoman Liz... Okay, so claiming that this trial is unconstitutional is an age-old Republican defense for everything. As you know, they love to play fast and loose with the Constitution, except it's not unconstitutional, as we found out that there was a, like the 18th century, I forget exactly what year it is, but someone has been impeached in the past, not a president, but it was 1882 or 1840. Hold on. I'm just going to tell you exactly when it was. Hold on. There's two reasons for why it's idiotic. Of course, you can impeach someone after they're done, because if you can't impeach someone after they're done with their term, then everyone will just resign. And then there's no accountability. Like, that would be insane. You could just resign and then run again. It would be like a cheat code. You know what I mean? Oh, no, sorry. I can literally do whatever I want in that, like, final month of my service, and then if you try to impeach me, I'll just run away and then get zero repercussions. It's fucking insane. So I'm, of course, not surprised that Republicans would try to do that. Nixon resigned so he wouldn't be impeached. Yeah, it seemed like Nixon was going to get impeached, so he resigned. Doesn't matter. Pulling a Nixon is not exactly the smart thing to do. That was his way of getting out of it. And saying that, like, I'm going to pull a Nixon here when Donald Trump can't do it already. He already used the entirety of his term. But saying that you're going to pull a Nixon isn't exactly your saving grace here. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, oh, I'm just going to do a Nixon here. Okay, sick. Well, he was a bad guy and he was going to get convicted. So fuck you. Who cares? Also, Nixon wasn't running again. And he wasn't going to be able to run again. He had already done 2 terms. Yeah, it's like saying that if you committed tax fraud at a company and then left the company, then said you can't charge me because I quit the job. It's ridiculous. It is completely ridiculous. Baby shit. It's so bad that it's like me on no pixel servers trying to defend and disconnect myself from the actual crime that I did end up committing when I, like, robbed someone. But then I was like, oh, you didn't see me rob someone. And I just thought I was getting in a taxi cab to go home. I had called the taxi. Like, that's not an argument. Completely insane to be like, well, actually, presidents could literally do whatever they want in a lame duck session, and there's no accountability measure for it. They can be as tyrannical as they want, and there's no accountability or enforcement measure for it at all, because you can just do the cheat code of resigning, or you can carry out your term till its end. And the Senate can't ever convict someone post them holding on to a position.
Also, the other irony is that you can't really convict someone of crimes when they're the president while they are the president. It's great. It's like a double jeopardy. You just literally cannot. Once you become a president, you're God King. You can't be convicted of a crime while you're literally the president because, you know, they'll take away from your... There's a lot of things that presidents have to do that are that would be considered criminal potentially. And you can't be convicted in an impeachment trial post-service. So it's like a double bind. It's great. Perfect system. Great. Of course, that would never work for the Democrats. It only works for Republicans. Aren't presidents supposed to be able to use presidential immunity in impeachment trials to suppress witnesses from their own administration? If this is allowed, then the other party should just impeach every president and senator after their powers of office have expired. Yeah, that will be an argument that you will hear, is that if we start impeaching presidents post-term, then what's stopping us from impeaching Barack Obama? What's stopping us from impeaching Bill Clinton, right? Well, part of it is, okay, you impeach them. Who gives a shit? They already carried out 2 terms. They're not going to be able to run again regardless. And secondly, fuck yeah, that's awesome. Definitely impeach them. I don't know what Republicans will try to impeach them over, but if it's over like actual high crimes that they have engaged in, crimes against the American working class or something like that, then yeah, great. Literally impeach every single president. Yeah, impeach Bush especially. Oh my God, which will never happen. So it doesn't matter. But Republicans are going to say this is unconstitutional because they have no other argument. Okay, except it's not unconstitutional. It has happened in the past.
Cheney still standing by her vote to impeach, calling on senators to listen to the evidence.
And this is not something that we can simply look past or pretend didn't happen or try to move on. We've got to make sure this never happens again.
The timing and structure of the trial is still unclear this morning, but both sides signaling they want it to be over with quickly, George.
Okay, Rachel, thanks very much.
Nothing will come out of this trial is a falsehood. That's wrong. I am a firm believer that you absolutely should have, and you should be using every fucking state mechanism possible to push back against this sort of stuff. Do I think it's largely a symbolic action? Yes. Do I think Trump should be prevented from running again? Absolutely. Do I think Trump deserves to be impeached? Yes. Not only does he deserve to be impeached, but he also deserves to go to jail. So, sorry, you have to do something, okay? I know that it's not going to solve the real problems facing the, working class and their material conditions, but you still absolutely, without a fucking shadow of a doubt, have to maintain some form of institutional legitimacy and also control and enforce accountability on people who think they can get away with literally fucking pushing for an insurrection by lying about the outcome of votes. Republicans haven't stopped. They're literally still lying. They are still lying to their audience, okay? They are such weaselly little liars, dude. I mean, they have not stopped. Republicans have not stopped questioning the integrity of our elections. They're still claiming that this election was stolen. Some of them are still doing it. A lot of the pundits are still doing it. Like, you can't do this. It's over unless you are one of those accelerationists living in a developing nation who wants to completely accelerate America into full tilt fascism and have it inevitably self-destruct, in which case, go off, keep supporting Republicans. But every other situation outside of that, it's devastating. It's insane to have no accountability whatsoever. You will hear a lot of people say, this is such a bullshit trial. Why the fuck are they doing this? Just get to the $15 minimum wage, get to the 2K stimmies. Fuck you. You're going to hear that a lot of lefties say this sort of stuff. You're probably going to hear that from the Chabo Boys when they release their podcast later today. I don't care. I don't want you to come back to me and be like, well, Matt Christman and Felix and Will are against you. Amber said something that is totally against your point of view. I don't care. My point of view on this issue is that you absolutely should have some fucking form of accountability enforced within the system so that even if the symbolism lovers and the jurisprudence fetishists and the Constitution understanders can point to 20 years down the fucking line when there is yet another fascist uprising, they could just turn around and be like, well, here's the precedent. It's kind of like this. I'll give you an analogy from stalkers or domestic abusers. When you go to the cops, when you are in a domestic abuse situation, the cops don't actually do anything. They don't defend you. They don't protect you. If you get a restraining order on someone, there is no protective barrier around you that respawns like an enemy when they come through your protective barrier, when they breach that restraining order. No, it doesn't work that way. The reason why you get a restraining order is so that it's written in the law that this person is violating the law, and that there's enough evidence in the end when that person who's stalking you does engage in some sort of crazy behavior. That doesn't mean you shouldn't stop yourself from defending yourself and figuring out how to defend yourself outside of the law. Do you understand what I'm saying? But it's still important to have that kind of established, documented wrongdoing, that you are taking the necessary precautions and the necessary measures within the system of the law as well, because ultimately it helps you down the line. You get it? If you want to avoid a further acceleration towards fascism, then you have to, at least in some respects, utilize the state machinations. And this is one enforcement protocol that you can use to enforce accountability on a president. That doesn't mean you shouldn't stop and analyzing the material conditions, the underlying material conditions in which fascist radicalization occurs, and trying to solve those problems. But this is one metric, or not metric, sorry. This is one measure that you have to take. Not impeaching Trump would set the president that the president is essentially a king and above the law, and smarter than Trump. Anyone smarter than Trump will 100% abuse that. Yeah. Why can't we pass the stimmy first and then come back to the big peach? The stimmy and the big peach are happening simultaneously. The Senate can do both of those things at the same time. Republicans are going to just use that to avoid having the stimmy convo, but it doesn't matter. Let's continue. We're going to watch this entire interview. I don't know if there's like one big one. We're going to turn now. Why do ex-presidents get briefings anyway? Dude, Donald Trump didn't read the briefings when he was president. Why in the ever-loving fuck would he even read the briefings or want them when he's not president? Like, when did he read the fucking briefings? Does he know how to read? We don't even know.